What's up, you chuckleheads? It is me, Faith, Moliminous, here with another top 10 list, which I know I normally do these like once a week, but guys, not only have the views gone down just because of YouTube and probably also because the fact Pony's dying, but I'm just not having fun with the videos I created. And I'm not gonna try to force myself as much to make videos. Obviously it is part of my job, and you guys gotta go to work whenever you don't feel like it, just like I gotta go to work and go to school when I don't feel like it. It's just part of life, but woe is me, right? The YouTuber. My life's so hard. Anyways guys, I thought I'd go ahead and kind of do a spin on a classic video that we did back in the day, which was like dark episodes and dark quotes and cartoons. And we're doing another like dark moments because while cartoons are aimed at kids for the majority of it, at least in the Western hemisphere where we are, it's aimed at kids, there are some surprisingly deep moments that kind of make you think and kind of got into question, was this really meant for kids? Or rather, was it really just meant for kids? As always, this is just my list, and by no means is it like an exhaustive list. There are so many cartoons out there, it's impossible for me to know all of them. So, you don't have to like my list, but I don't have to be as old as you, okay, Onan? Number 10, Samurai Jack. So, the new Samurai Jack, the reboot, has a few emotional moments in it, and the one that I wanted to choose, well, it was kind of a tie between when Jack actually tries to go through with his suicide versus when he, spoiler alert, if you don't want to hear this, skip to number 2, he loses Ashy. Well, if he wins, and he does win, that means that Ashy never existed. Or she, I forget, it's been a while since I've watched it. Oh man, if I'm saying it wrong, this is gonna be like Naruto and Naruto all over again. Of course, I've never said it Naruto, but I know people who have. Anyways, these are some pretty serious moments that, they're equally bad. But I ultimately went with losing Ashy because while the suicide attempt was horrible and it was a dark period in the show, he ultimately had someone there who was his light and able to give him help and help him throughout the entire series actually after that. When he loses her, that has to be some of the most incredible blows, and the fact that they gave him time with her was even worse. The fact that he had time to get used to having her around was even worse. Number 9, Steven Universe. Steven's been through quite a few roller coasters. He's already lost his mom. He knows the gyms feel kind of weird with him. They love him immensely, but they also have some sort of disdain, something of that nature for him, because they do subconsciously blame him for the death of his mother. All that aside, when he loses Greg, it's a pretty harrowing experience because it pushes Steven to his breaking point. He's finally suffered a significant loss other than his mother. You see, his mother was a loss that he didn't have to witness himself. It was a hole, but it was never filled. Now his last remaining parent, who he's known all his life to always be there, he got to experience having him. And now he's gone. There's a lot of things that Steven does and trying to get him back that put everyone in danger. It's so out of left field for him. It's so unlike his character. It definitely added depth to him as a person. Number 8, Adventure Time. Adventure Time is no stranger to these weird, dark moments, usually coupled with a joke or something like that. It's got this weird dichotomy of this happy and sad, almost always constantly swirling around with each other. As soon as there's a joke, there's something underlining that makes it actually a little bit more sad or nefarious or sinister, something like that. But there was a scene that I've referenced before in videos of Finn when he lost his arm. Now, he loses his arm, but that's not necessarily the sad part. The sad part is Finn loses his arm after finding the person who he assumes to be his dad. And because of his dad, he loses his arm. So someone that he's been wondering about for years and years is the cause of a very significant injury to him by abandoning him once again and sacrificing him so that he can live. It's such a horrible feeling to finally find one of your long lost parents and have them do something like that, and then also suffer a huge loss like your arm, something super important to Finn as an adventurer. That's got to be simply overwhelming. The fact they really aired something like a dismemberment on Cartoon Network, I mean, there was no blood, but it's still pretty weird. Number 7, Gravity Falls. So there's a character in there, Grunkle Stan, who we learned to love for how eccentric he is, and while he's kind of a scam artist, he has a heart of gold when it comes to his family and those who he's close with. And over the season, they build this closeness between him and the audience and twins and everyone else in the main cast. And that all comes to a screeching halt during the end of the show, when our faith in Grunkle Stan is significantly shaken, and it's shaken for the twins themselves. They're faced with a choice. Do they trust him and potentially let the world end, or do they not and shut off a machine that they don't know what would do if they shut it off or if they left it on? There's a lot of shows that try to make you feel something in scenarios just like these, but they never really give us a chance to form our own connection with the characters. They pretty much rely on us just instantly liking them because another character who we're supposed to like likes them. They don't give us time to develop our own feelings, and with this, they do that. And it's kind of this weird emotional moment that you're actually invested in. And it's so rare for shows to do that Gravity Falls has definitely got to be on this list. And this is by far not the only moment on this list. If you hadn't seen this show, I have no idea what you're doing with your life. You should immediately stop this video, and of course like and subscribe if you haven't already, and go watch it enough. What are you doing with your life? Number 6. American Dragon Jake Long. This is gonna be a throwback for you, but if you guys are a furry, then you probably remember this show fondly. I would assume fondly I do. I personally loved American Dragon Jake Long, even after they switched up the art style, which I'm pretty sure I went over in a video at some point and I explained why, but I forget. So you guys can go back in the catalog and figure that out yourselves. But there's a scene where Jake has a crush on someone at this high school. It's a typical high school romance thing. He has a crush on this girl, and then another kind of cliche trope, but I'll give it a pass because the show was actually enjoyable. He finds out that that girl is part of the group that he's been fighting forever, who hates dragons and would like to kill them. For those of you guys who don't know, American Dragon Jake Long is a Chinese American who has the ability to turn into a dragon, kind of like Danny Phantom going ghost. And this pretty much means that he is a dragon with a human form. You get the picture. And I feel like I had to have at least one of these on the list where you find out someone that you care about is completely on the side that is opposed to you. Then that's so shocking. It's got to be on here. For as cliche as it is a good trope. It's overdone, sure, but it's overdone because it works. It's emotionally impactful, especially because they let it build up. Again, they took notes, or I guess they came before Gravity Falls, but they allowed us to form a connection with these characters, and we became invested in his little high school crush. And when we found out that she was part of a dragon-hating cult, we were also crushed. Not only that, but her father is the leader of said cult. Number 5, My Little Pony, Too Many Pinkie Pies. Alright, so there's a few moments I could choose, definitely not as many from the later seasons, but this one from Too Many Pinkie Pies, where Pinkie pretty much gives up on life, is actually pretty emotional. You wouldn't think it would be from the show Friendship is Magic. You'd think it'd all be sunshines and rainbows. If you watch the show, you'd realize it's not quite always that. Sure, everything gets resolved in the end, but there are some moments where it dips pretty low. And this was one of those moments. For those of you guys who haven't seen this episode, essentially the character Pinkie Pie finds a mirror pool that allows her to clone herself. She does this so she can hang out with all of her friends all at once without missing anything that would be fun, and so that she doesn't let anyone down. Unfortunately, it spirals out of out of control, as clones often do, and they try taking over everything. Twilight, the main character of the show, at least arguably the main character of the show, then decides that she's gotta get rid of some of these Pinkie Pies. How do you do that? Well, you have a test to prove which one is the real Pinkie Pie. The real Pinkie Pie, though, in this scenario, doesn't believe that she can do the test, and she thinks that her friends would be better off without her. She doesn't even think that she's the real Pinkie Pie anymore, and she gives up on life and waits to be destroyed by her own best friend. It's a pretty dark scenario, and ultimately we think, or led to believe rather, that the real Pinkie Pie survives. But it could be 100% possible that that Pinkie Pie isn't the real Pinkie Pie. Even her friends, when they first see her, immediately pass by her because they decide that her mopey personality wasn't fitting for the real Pinkie Pie. That's gotta hurt. Number 4, Adventure Time. Again. So like I said, Adventure Time's got a lot of moments, and I had to put one more on this list. And that's gotta be the Ice King losing himself to save Marceline. Marceline, the vampire queen, was a kid at the time, and Ice King was an actual man who's now this weird, misogynistic, obsessed with women and kidnapping them wizard. Well, he had a special crown during the apocalypse, the beginning of it, in which he used to give himself ice powers to save Marceline from danger and fight off hordes of zombies and other dangerous creatures. We learn of these characters' connections in bits and pieces throughout episodes and throughout the seasons, and when we see him actually transform into the Ice King through an emotional song and emotional flashback, it's not ham-fisted, it doesn't feel forced, it doesn't feel fake, it feels hearteningly real. It's very sad. It's a very odd moment. In fact, this was the moment that I saw when I had flipped on the TV for the first time to watch Adventure Time late at night. I believe it's like 11 a.m. or something. For some reason, Cartoon Network was still playing cartoons. I have no idea why, but it was, and I saw this and I was like, I have to watch this show. Because before I wasn't watching Adventure Time. I did not care about Adventure Time at the moment. This is definitely one of those moments in the show that really get you in the feels. Number 3, Teen Titans. The original Teen Titans, not Go. If you watched Go, or if you watched the original, you already know who Terra is. And I'm not talking about Terra Strong. I'm talking about Terra who can manipulate Earth. She's pretty much an earthbender in this world. Anyways, there's this long-standing crush between Terra and Beast Boy. A more strong crush than he has with Raven. It's actually treated as more of this flirtatious kind of kitty crush between him and Raven. And this with Terra was love. He's gone through literally hell and back to get her. He's done everything he can to ensure that she's able to control her powers, that she can be part of the team, and he really enjoys her company. And at one point, she does betray him, and she goes to the side of Slade. But at the very last moment, she sacrifices herself to save him, and she's turned to stone. He loses her, and for a while we thought he actually did fully lose her, until we found out that Terra somehow comes back, but she has no memories of Beast Boy and she's just a normal high school girl. It's a really weird moment that's both filled with hope and sadness and all kinds of weird emotions. And unfortunately, that's where the series ends. We have no idea what happens next, and we may never, but that only adds to the impact. Number 2, Courage the Cowardly Dog. I'm sure I put this moment somewhere on some list. I don't think it was a similar list, but I think it was there at some point. But I believe their name was Bunny and Kitty, and they were two creatures who were kind of being controlled by this dog character, right? They were two females and they were in love with each other, but the world didn't want to accept that, and it was kind of earlier on. Gay marriage wasn't legal. There was still a lot of hate towards the LGBTQA plus whatever alphabets community, and this was a pretty emotional kind of show and a pretty risky episode to air on Cartoon Network at the time. This is the type of stuff that gets you banned in so many other countries. And I guess they didn't explicitly say that they were lesbians, but they were both females. And there's even a scene where they kiss and thank Courage for bringing them back together. It's a really weird and emotional moment. There's all kinds of topics touched, like domestic abuse, rape, all kinds of things that you wouldn't expect to see in the show or even just in a kids show in general. It was something else. And I don't even think a lot of shows today, with the exception of maybe Steven Universe, have even touched on as many dark topics as that in a single episode. That was a lot to digest. And the number one spot is Star versus the Forces of Evil. There's a scene that I was watching, you know, because I marathon Star versus while I go to the gym, you know, and I do my cardio part of my workout routine. I usually watch an episode or two. Usually it's two because they air in 15-minute parts. But there was one episode where Marco loses the dimensional scissors that Star has to the creator of the dimensional scissors themselves. And the only way to get him back was to prove that he's worthy by catching her. And since you're catching an interdimensional being, you have to keep on traveling across dimensions. Well, Marco isn't going to let Star down. And so he spends years, I think it was something like 15 years, chasing her down. And of course, time doesn't move in the other world, but he spends 15 years chasing her down. He's kind of like an adult now, and he's built and he's rugged and he knows exactly what he's doing. He's combat trained now, and he's after her, and he finally gets her and he wins and he gets to go home. But after 15 years of being gone and 15 years of life, and everyone else is still at the same exact time, it's jarring. And there's a moment that just really hammered home the point. He comes home and he turns on his laptop and he just says, "I forgot my password." It was definitely an amazing episode, and it's definitely a series I recommend you guys all go watch. As always, guys, I've been Faith and Moliminous. I hope you enjoyed it. Shout out to all our patrons who support us and help make these videos possible. I think I'm gonna go ahead and do like a verbal shout out for all of them. I think that's what we're gonna do from now on, because our patrons are incredible. Oswald, TWT, Eddie, Peter, I'm not saying all last names, so I'm not 100% sure if they want me to. Joshua, McDonald, that's pretty common. Azaer, Weykna, Leszek Wykowski, michaelpaquin, Breana Hancock, Anthony Alejandro, Severino. All of you guys, you the real MVP. It really means a lot that you guys even want to support this channel.